Welcome back, music makers. My name is Chris. I'm a board-certified music therapist, and this is the show that connects you to music and one another. This is episode 49 that's featuring Joel from Chase Bliss Audio. It's a great chat. We dive really deep down into his path in speech-language pathology, his own kind of self-acceptance and deciding what he was going to do, and ultimately the path towards following his bliss. Some of you may have heard him on multiple podcasts before. Some of you, unfortunately, may not know anything about him. You're going to hear a little bit about Chase Bliss over the next couple of episodes. We had a cool chance to partner with some music therapy education me and my friend Jesse are doing on using guitar pedals in music therapy. But Joel is awesome. I hope you're doing well in your neck of the woods. I've got gigs. I'm playing a lot of weekends at church, but a lot of like regular gigs outside coming up. Our buddy Matt, MW Hale, has some gigs. I'm playing a gig in Ashland, Kentucky this weekend with old friend Devin Hale. So just exciting to be making music with people out in the world and not just all from computers these days. So hope you're doing well. How are gigs going in your end? So hit me up. Let me know. You can do that on Instagram at make.more.music. Otherwise, let's just get right into this chat. This episode is 49 with Joel of Chase Bliss Audio on Make More Music. Season 3 of Make More Music is brought to you by 3 great sponsors, and I wanted to tell you about them real quick. So I built a guitar, and it is awesome. I have a companion blog post in the show notes that tells you about building a parts caster from concept to creation, and it tells you about the 3 great sponsors I got to work with. First is Parts Caster Concierge. Gary offers a truly concierge experience from build constructions and consultations to unfinished bodies and wooden pedal enclosures, all the way to custom requests and fully custom builds. He offers traditional styles as well as unique, one-of-a-kind DIY experiences with guitars that wouldn't traditionally have a bolt-on neck with a parts caster style build. Second is Porter Pickups. Brian and his team have been winding pickups focused on finding you the right sound and winding with a purpose. Their 5-person shop offers consultation through their online pickup chooser form to help you get closer to the sounds you're looking for. They sound killer. They just launched an entry-level, affordable line called the Gatekeeper, so if you're looking for something to try for the first time, look them up. Our last sponsor is Gun Street Wiring Shop, where they create wiring harnesses for your guitar needs with simple, elegant instructions to help even the first-time solderer like myself get the sound they're looking for. He's not into promoting parts myths, mojo, and magic. He sells circuits, and their customer service is top-notch. From basic upgrades to wild enhancements, Gun Street has got what you need. As I said, all the links are in the show notes, and you'll hear me blab about it more. But if you want more, look there. All right, back to the show. Great. All right, well, we'll not pretend like we've already been chatting for like 10 minutes, but welcome, Joel, to Make More Music. I'm super pumped to talk to you about literally all kinds of things, and I have tons of questions from my friends for you. So awesome. Before we do that, though, I've got some icebreakers. You ready to roll in?
I'm ready.
On your phone, vinyl, whatever you last listened to music, what's the last track you listened to?
The last track I listened to.
And I know you might have been with your 6 and 4-year-old, so
it was actually
Baby
this guy. This happens a lot, but this guy emailed me yesterday, and we had been exchanging emails a bit, and he had recorded some stuff with Chase Bliss pedals, and I asked for the link. Actually, it's funny because usually people will say like, "Hey, here's a link," and I use Chase Bliss pedals, but it was funny with him because his email was just sort of a appreciation.
Yeah, like a high five. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want to hear your stuff. Send me your link. So it was this really interesting drone music. Let me just find his name. So I was listening to him. And actually, he had bought our Dan Wilson Words and Music in 6 Seconds thing. Well, that's not ours. Cool. It's Dan Wilson's. We're just like wanting to help him out. So, okay. So where is this? Okay, his link. Um, I guess the name of his project is I don't even know. It's just Lael. But
Lael or
there's
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there's a space between LA and EL, and it was interesting because he's gotten into music later in life, or at least recording, and I think that's cool. I think it's cool when people get into stuff later than.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't. It's not like he's like 80 or something, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just it seems like you hear a lot. Like my story started playing guitar when I was 15. That seems to
Mm-hmm.
be pretty normal. So I thought that was interesting as well. But yeah, that was the last thing I listened to.
I like it. We'll have to check out we'll have to
I'll
ask
send you a link. Yeah.
Lael or yeah, Lael. I looked up that name and there's some famous singer named Lael Neal.
Okay.
So she's got a lot.
This guy's name is Zeke. So
Okay, we'll find Zeke and Lyle. We'll find them. You can take this as philosophical or as plain or as specific, whatever way you want to take it. If you were an instrument, what would you be and why?
gosh, I just keep wanting to say different things.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What are the first
I
free associations? What's popping in your head?
yeah. The first thing I thought was a guitar, but then I'm like, oh, I can't say that.
You can totally say that.
Um, and then I was thinking about a synth, but then I thought, do I really think that, or am I just saying that because I think that guitar is too cliche? But I will say I probably do have to go with guitar, probably electric guitar, because it's just such a perfect instrument. I think in a
Mm,
lot of ways, because of the performance aspect of it. I think you can be so what's the word, emotive when you're
mm-hmm,
playing it, and it just affords so much creativity, and I just feel like there's such an instant connection between your mind and what you want to play sometimes, that and it could be that I just don't play lots of other stuff, so I don't know what that feels like with other instruments, but you just have that connection where you can transfer a thought or an idea into a sound so quickly,
mm-hmm.
and in such an exciting way, especially if you have a bunch of guitar pedals. Yeah, I guess I have to do the cliche answer,
Well, that's
electric
good.
guitar.
And I mean, I agree with you too. And I would feel the same. I'd be kicking myself trying to think like, ah,
What would a
what?
cool person say?
Yeah, and
Saxophone? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe they would.
some cool like big old big as the wall modular system, or like you're
Yeah.
saying, yeah, yeah, something crazy. But man, I agree with you. The just the kinetic tactile experience of guitar, and it fights back against you and all that good stuff. Well, this doesn't have to be music related at all. And you all in Minneapolis just had a crazy day. So I'm wondering what's been inspiring you recently?
Inspiring me. Um, it's this song by the Smiths called "Asleep,"
Mm,
and it so that's like a musical thing. Right? It was kind of related to my brother. It was a song that's referenced a lot in the book, "The Perks of Being a Wallflower," when my brother
mm,
gave me that book.
mm,
So I just come back to it every once in a while, and then it's the type of thing where when I come back to it, I'll just listen to it like 100 times in a row, and I'm kind of in that vibe of it. So that there's just something about it that really makes me want to write music. So I've been feeling that urge more lately, which I haven't been really doing in the last few years.
mm-hmm.
So I've been kind of like latching onto that. The other thing that's been inspiring me is Star Trek: The Next Generation. Um, I it's kind of again has to do with my brother, but he loved that show,
Mm.
and he would watch it a lot, and I would watch it with him sometimes. And during the pandemic here,
Mm-hmm.
I've had some work tasks come up that lend itself really well to watching The Next Generation while I'm working. And because it's
Nice.
not really the type of show that you necessarily need to pay close attention to like 100% of the time.
Good.
And a bunch of my employees started watching it too. So we're just like talking about it all the time.
That's great.
And it's just, yeah, it, it's hard to pin down exactly how it's inspiring me, but it's just, there's something about when you get into like a creative, or you're just consuming any type of media,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you appreciate all the work that went into it, and also what how it makes you feel.
Mm.
And yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
We took the opportunity during the pandemic to, I think I had seen only a handful of those, like the whole Avengers series of
Oh,
movies.
sure. Yep.
So we went in a chronological order, like how the story goes chronologically.
Cool.
And that was great because then Spider-Man, the newer one, came out like while we were doing that, and it was just cool to like be on that. And now have like WandaVision and everything came out, and it was a lot more satisfying than I thought, because I was always kind of like, if something's super popular, I'm naturally like,
Yeah.
like a little bit of a curmudgeon about it. And I was like, you know what, this is awesome. I really like these, and everything Jon Favreau does is amazing. So
Yeah, he's really great. He did The Mandalorian, right?
he did. He is the Midas touch recently.
Yeah,
Like,
because I haven't got into the Avenger stuff, mostly because it was never really on my radar, and I feel like it's going to be the type of thing where my 6-year-old will be like, "Okay, we need to watch all these," and
yeah,
then I'll be like, "Yeah," because I'm interested. I just haven't gotten into it.
yeah.
Um, but I did watch The Mandalorian, and I really enjoyed that.
Wow, that payoff was great.
Yeah.
It spent so long going like, where is this going?
Hmm.
Is this gonna pan out? And man, the end of the first season, I thought that wrapped up well. And
Yeah.
then the second season did kind of the same thing. It's like, where are we going here? And a few episodes in, I was like, it's clear that they've got this big plan. And a couple episodes out, I called out the ending. I was like, I know.
Really?
I was like,
Oh,
I know what it's got to be. It's got to be. But yeah,
sometimes I do.
just like I grew up a giant Star Wars nerd
Okay.
as like a kid,
Hmm.
which as a kid I didn't like take it serious. So I didn't know, like, I didn't read all the books or anything, but just like, as a kid, I would
Yeah.
watch the movies over and over and over. And we had
Hmm.
the 90s, like that VHS box set that had like 30 minutes of George Lucas talking about how he edited scenes out and things like
Hmm.
that. So man, that was good stuff. So yeah, I thought The Mandalorian was really good.
Does that have that footage where, I don't know where I saw this, but it's before the Phantom Menace comes out, and there's footage of them sort of watching the final cut or whatever.
I believe so, because it came out. That would have been right around like 98, like 90. Like I was somewhere between like 95 and 2000.
Okay,
Because I was
yeah,
old. It was definitely after 96, because I remember my little brother was watching it some with me, and he was obsessed with we would just rewatch the opening because he loved the bum 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 bum. We would watch
yeah,
that
yeah.
over and over and over. We would just watch it. But so it was cueing, because I remember in third grade I was in a play, and I told them I had to miss the like play night because episode 1 was coming out. So like I had to go. So the teacher was like, okay, nerd, like go to your movie. So it
Yeah,
was
I
good though.
totally remember going to that uh, very early.
I had
But
fond
yeah,
memories. I know a lot of people hate on them, but I grew up as like, that was like, oh my gosh, this thing I've liked is new. So,
hmm
and I felt that way about the newer ones too. I liked them as well. So I know there's a lot of haters, but
I generally like things.
agreed.
I think though that I really like I'm not the kind of person that's gonna really dislike anything Star Wars necessarily. Well, there's definitely some exceptions now that I'm thinking about it, but I think with the Mandalorian, it was a view of that universe that I always wanted to see.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And it was like exactly what I just loved it.
I did too. I really agree. And I liked all the like ancillary characters coming in, and
Yeah.
well, we could probably wax on about those.
Yeah, I know,
but
yeah.
The next one doesn't have to be music related at all.
Okay.
For example, I've been told how to keep your takeout warm in the car. But if you have a pro tip, a life hack, a dad hack, anything you've got that makes life easier that you feel like you need to let people know about.
Well, I'm experiencing something right now that I've learned before, but I just easily forget about. And I'm working out regularly. And my goodness, that just helps a person's mood. And
for sure.
I know I've discovered this before, and then I'll just fall into, my typical sedentary, is that the word? Sedentary lifestyle.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And but I'm kind of in a kick right now where I'm trying to do something every day, and it's just making me feel way better.
What do you like to do to get active?
People are gonna roll their eyes.
But you're telling me I'm currently very dad bod right now. So you're saying this on the day that we just paid for. I think yesterday we bought some kind of like online workout video. I think it's like the people that make like P90X and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So.
Yep. I've dabbled a long time ago, but it's those Peloton bikes. Great. But yeah, I think it's so awesome. That's so convenient.
Actually why we bought that, because like everyone in our family has recently acquired Pelotons. And
really?
We don't.
I know there's kind of a stigma right with people that have Pelotons. So now I'm worried that, Joel sells his expensive pedal and gets his, expensive workout bike with all our hard-earned money.
I'm sure it is making me happy. I'm sure people will find reasons to get mad at you about something.
I know it happens, but it's making me happy, and it's, getting my heart rate up a little bit every day. And it's good. Making me feel good. Yep.
That's good. That's good. On the total opposite end, what's your go-to junk food?
Gosh, I have issues with late night eating. So there's a lot I could pick from.
Are you savory or sweet if you're like going for something?
I just love it all.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm definitely more savory, but yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, I get probably more savory, but like, the Oreos sometimes just hit a certain way.
How do you feel about golden Oreos?
I'm pretty opinionated when it comes to Oreos. I think that the original Oreo is a work of art that is perfect. And I think that all the variations, while I understand, I own a business, you got to figure out ways to,
iterate,
get more revenue in and grow and stuff. But it's just, I think all the other versions, all of them are silly. And even like the double stuff, it's too much stuff. It's just too much.
Nobody needs the thin. I can 100%.
Well, the thin, the thin's not enough stuff. The original Oreos have the perfect amount of stuff. So
I'm very into the golden Oreos. But,
okay.
But I agree with you as like that standard size.
The thing about the golden Oreos, I think if I'm eating a golden Oreo, part of my brain thinks you could be having a regular Oreo right now.
I like that flavor
Yeah.
enough.
So
though.
that's fair.
But I agree with you in general. It's like, you could just have the regular thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what's so heartbreaking sometimes is you'll go to a family event or, a barbecue or 4th of July, and they have some fancy seasonal Oreo that is essentially garbage.
Those are the absolute worst.
Yeah. And I just can't. I just don't have a lot of patience for that.
About the same as I feel about Peeps. I totally hate Peeps.
I never got into Peeps. Yeah, not into real like sweet weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, who can hate on a classic Oreo?
Yeah.
So they'll probably again find ways to say, Joel hates on all the Oreos or something online.
Kind of a villain, but
which is so strange, but we'll get into that later. Lastly, this can be like a person, a project, another company, an organization. Actually, I know you've got that raffle going on that you just announced. So maybe who are some people that you want to give a shout out that are doing something cool? So any of those or all of those are great too.
Yeah, good question. I mean, this is going to be weird. And it's like, I'm actually really impressed with, it's just weird to say, it's going to sound bad, but like my employees,
no, I think it's good.
They're, really far more educated than me on a lot of these issues. And it's really nice for me to be able to lean on their research and expertise and help kind of walk me through stuff and explain stuff to me. On that note, actually, one of the reasons why I'm feeling this way about my employees is that we did about 6 months of workshops with this woman named Hillary Jones.
Yeah. I actually just interviewed her
you did?
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So she's doing really great work. She's working with Old Blood Noise now, doing kind of a similar thing that we did. And
she had nothing but nice things to say about you all.
Oh, great. Yeah. I feel like we all connected a lot, over a lot of stuff. And I think that I just really love how honest everyone is and how productive the conversations we had were. And so really she was a catalyst for me feeling like this right now. I think about and kind of opening up those conversations with my employees. And so they feel really like, hey, we need to do something here. And I'm, for me, just to be honest, and I sort of dislike this about myself, is that I really like things in my life to be simple. But I know, that in itself, comes from a place of privilege.
Totally. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But, part of me is like, I don't know if I want to do this fundraiser and have a bunch of people write me, but sometimes you just, it's nothing to compared to what other people have to go through.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's the type of thing where it's like, okay, Joel, like you're full of, But at the end of the day, it's never fun to for people to be weird. But
yeah,
that's life.
Unfortunately, and I think with your all's success and the things that y'all have done in the market, I think it attracts a lot of attention, and attention goes both ways.
Yeah. And I'm so sensitive. I got thin skin, and I look, and it's like most of the time, people are so overwhelmingly positive, but it's so easy to get fixated on, the handful of jerks.
So that are going through some kind of something.
Exactly.
I still wonder about that. It's like, actually though, what is actually going on those people's head? Like the YouTube world, what attracts those people to the edges of the dark web. Those are the people that are straddling the line between buying kidneys. Sometimes I feel like getting onto dark places.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with life's hard for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's can be an outlet to sort of
Mm-hmm.
to be a jerk online. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think necessarily these people are bad people even, but they're I'd love to sit down with them and just be like, what's really going on here? Like, and maybe it is that they just really disagree with my approach to things, um but probably
Mm-hmm.
they're going through some trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and so I try to kind of lead with kindness, because who knows what kind of shit they're going through.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that kept ringing, it's that cliche, but I feel like it's super true. It's just hurt people.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's such a bummer. And you want to
Hmm.
like, the sad thing is at that age, it's like someone like that would not respond. You want to be like, can I just give you a hug? Or,
Yeah.
like, but they're not going to respond to that. You'll get punched in
Hmm.
the face for that,
Yeah.
or sued, that's the American way too. So,
Hmm.
but, well, I'm wondering now, kind of just, I know you've talked at length on some other podcasts, and we'll definitely link to like the Tone Mob and stuff like that. But take me through kind of you growing up. And specifically, I reached out because I had heard uh, you talk about even growing up and then going into potentially doing speech language pathology, going through that process. And then somewhere between then and now, you ended up working at Zvex. You've had some, um, I'll say, traumatic experiences with your family and with your brother and stuff. So take me
Hmm.
back to the beginning. What are some of your earliest musical memories like as a young kid?
uh my brother really liking Pearl Jam.
Because
um so I
your
pretty
brother
much,
was older, right?
yeah, so he was 18 months older, so a year and a
Okay.
half. And at that age difference between two brothers, and my brother was really cool,
Mm-hmm.
so I just liked whatever he liked.
Sure.
And he liked a lot of, so we were like into the grunge stuff. I was born in 84, so right when that stuff was happening in the early 90s, we were kind of at a ripe age
Mm-hmm.
of starting to seek out music that we liked, rather than just whatever we heard in around, so we would
Sure.
start to get albums, and do the do what was like those crazy companies that you could get like 20 CDs for $1 or a penny or something.
Mm.
So you'd start getting CDs that way,
Yeah.
and then cancel
I
the
forgot
membership.
about those. That's a
It was
blast.
like
Yeah.
what was it like? There's a few of them. I can't remember what they're called. Uh, anyway,
I was
um,
slightly too young to be like the one purchasing those, but I remember like the
okay,
ads and the
okay,
things like
yeah,
that. And like, didn't they have like the TV commercials for those things too?
yeah. I
Or like
gotta just, I
magazines or
gotta,
something?
I gotta, I gotta look this up
It's
now because it's
familiar.
bothering me. I'm just gonna write.
I was born
Uh,
in 90, so I was just
okay,
slightly, a
yeah.
little too young. But for me, it was like Blink 182,
Oh, sure.
Smash Mouth as like a fourth grader. Like, what was it? All Star came out when I was in like third grade or something. So
Okay.
pre Shrek, I was already in into Smash Mouth.
So it was Columbia House,
Mm.
and BMG Music Service, 12 CDs for a penny, and then they would try to. I think the thing
Oh,
was like if you didn't, you could get that, but then it was really hard to quit
yeah. It
the
was like
service, and then
timeshare for music, basically.
yeah, and then they would
Yes,
charge you like $20 a CD once a month or something, and
you would pay
you
for
just,
them
yeah,
basically after 1 month. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's funny.
so yeah, I can't even remember what you asked. I think it was like what
Yeah,
musical memories.
musical
Yeah,
memories and growing up. So, and
yeah,
you're growing up, you're watching your brother. Did he pick up instruments and things ahead of you, or what did that look like when you started deciding like I want to learn this stuff or at least do this
yeah. I
stuff?
mean, I wouldn't get in. He wasn't really a musician. Kind of. He played piano. He took piano lessons, and but I don't think he, he didn't. I think he took a few guitar lessons, but never really got into it. And it wasn't until I was 15 that I started to getting into guitar.
I don't know if you grew up hearing any of these kind of phrases too, because you've been pretty outspoken about stuttering and growing up with that, and I probably feeling pretty anxious, right?
Yeah.
So, and you said you did quite a bit of treatment and things like that.
Yeah, when I was younger, I started getting therapy. Yeah, I was definitely noticing I was stuttering and struggling with it, but I was told I would grow out of it. So I think I was just kind of trying to wait it out.
Yeah.
And then I did get some therapy, but I think I knew it was kind of bad. I think really what it boils down to for me is and this is individual, but I think a lot of people who stutter have had a similar experience as mine. Is that when the metric of success or the goal of treatment is the absence of stuttering, so fluency or to stop stuttering, it is a complete disaster. Like the more you try not to stutter, the more it's kind of like a Chinese finger trap.
Yeah.
Like it's just to make that the goal is, I don't know, I think like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. It's like
And
putting
especially
bricks
if
on
a kid,
somebody's shoulders. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially for kids, because um it's you're just setting yourself up for failure and to make a kid feel like,
Yeah.
and
That's like identity issues instead.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that, looking back, I did do some brave things with my stuttering. Um, whether it was trying to read out loud in class or doing a presentation or something like that. But I should have been feeling really proud about that. But instead, I was feeling horrible because I was stuttering. But I stutter, so that's what I was doing. So, yeah, I have a lot of I have a lot of frustrating memories about the type of therapy I got when I was younger. And that really leads into why I wanted to be a speech language pathologist. Because,
Well, even before
yeah,
that, I'm wondering too, was I was kind of bringing that idea into thinking, I wonder if people ever said those like tropes to you of things, because I've heard those, oh, when you sing, you don't stutter. And
yeah,
like, because, as a
which is
music
true.
therapist, I've encountered a lot of these things. And I'm thinking, how much had you heard or been hit over the head with some of those like bootstraps ideas basically about stuttering or getting over it or whatever, or growing out of it. Like you said, you already mentioned
Yeah.
that. And what did music play a role for you in kind of like being a space that you weren't thinking about that or anything like that too?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a nice relief and release. I kind of put those words together,
I like that.
reliefs, um, to use your voice and not worry about stuttering. That was really fun. Um, but there was all sorts of stuff that I didn't understand when I was growing up as a person who stutters. Because one thing that drives you crazy is that you can be perfectly fluent in one context, like talking to yourself in a room where nobody can hear, but then you'll hear someone walking down the stairs, or I would be practicing like my speech stuff in my room, and then all of a sudden I would start stuttering because I knew I had an audience, and that stuff would drive me crazy because I'd be like, "What is wrong with me that?" I can't just figure this out, because it must be, a mental thing. But that's why I love analogies when it comes to this stuff, because that helped me understand that I wasn't insane, and also helps other people. And I always like the one where it's, you have this car and it drives around the city perfectly. at 30 miles an hour, it's
Mm.
flawless
Mm.
in that context of city driving at low speed. And but once you start putting more external pressures on that engine, in let's say you need to drive 70 miles an hour on the highway,
Mm.
and it starts to break down and not work, um, it doesn't mean that just because you were able to drive a certain way at 30 miles an hour that you can automatically assume that everything is going to be great in any context of driving. It's
Mm.
just there's a problem with the engine, and it
Mm.
manifests in a certain context, and that doesn't mean it's a little strange and weird, but um, it's actually not all that uncommon. And so once I started to kind of make those connections, that like, whoa, actually that explanation kind of makes sense a bit.
Mm.
And it's not so mysterious that I can be fluent and not
Mm.
stutter in one context and then be put in another and have a lot of struggle.
Mm. That's good. So you're you're growing up, and at what point did you think like that's what I want to do? And I'm wondering, kind of along the lines of, you grew up playing music. Obviously, it's a huge part of your life now. So, what was making the choices for you after high school as you thought? I don't know what was that route to you even pursuing speech language pathology, but what made you kind of go that way?
I mean, there was a time
Because
when
that's a master's, right? You had done something previous to that too.
yeah, it's actually kind of a weird story. I had considered considered it in high school, but I deeply hated my stuttering. So I always thought it was kind of like, well, maybe if I become a therapist, I'll figure this thing out.
Mm.
Um, and I ultimately decided not to study it as an undergraduate. I studied electrical engineering
Nice.
because uh, I wanted to build audio gear. Like
Nice.
I kind of I remember I was sitting around in my dorm room one night. I think I actually have this up on our website, and I was like, um, I loved playing guitar and I loved recording, but I was interested in the gear. And I thought to
Mm-hmm.
myself, well, who makes this stuff? I had no idea. And I emailed a few of my favorite companies that I used, their gear. And I was like, who designs this stuff? And they said, electrical engineers. And I said, okay. And then I had a few friends because I played football in college that were in electrical engineering. And I started talking to them about it. This was when I was a freshman, and they said they liked it a lot, and I was like, all right, that's my major, electrical
Wow.
engineering.
There you go.
And of course, I hadn't taken a math class in like 3 years, but and I wasn't a good student in college, so I kind of muddled through and kind of forgot why I was an electrical engineer in the first place. And um, actually, shortly before my brother died, I accepted this corporate job as an engineer, as a senior.
Mm.
And then my brother died, and I finished. Now, imagine being completely heartbroken, lost, and sad, and
Mm.
multiply that by some factor, and that was how I was feeling.
Mm.
And so I finished. I had a few months left of school, and I was able to finish. And I started my new job
Mm. So this is all
in
like
this
senior year
corporate
of
world.
college.
Yeah, so it was 2007. My brother died February 10th, 2007, and then I graduated in May.
Oh.
Um, so, and I started to have arguably the 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 biggest struggle with my stuttering
Mm.
um, ever. I think I think part of it was the transition from college to
Mm.
the working world, and then still just like really, really, really sad
Mm.
about, uh, my brother dying. And so then it came all this stuff because, my brother was out he lived in LA and was pursuing an acting career. And his thing was always this concept of following one's bliss, but from this guy named Joseph Campbell. And I just, I was dealing with the loss of my brother, but then also like reckoning with the fact that I just felt that I was a big phony and not doing anything I cared about.
Yeah.
And struggling. So like I would be in my cubicle and like the phone would ring and I was so stressed about stuttering that I would pick up the phone and like my heart was beating out of my chest already. Pick up the phone and I'd just be like nothing would come out.
Golly.
And so I was like, well, I'm at rock bottom. I'm going to go back to my old speech therapist who I had a reasonable. So, okay. And I had some bad therapy in elementary school. And then I had some it was bad therapy in 8th grade, but the lady was real nice. And I didn't know it was bad at the time. There was some good elements. So I thought, well,
good rapport anyways.
I'm going to look her up, see if I can get some therapy again. And in the years between when I was in 8th grade and when I was, I guess I was 21 in 2000. Oh, wait, no, I was 20. How old was I in 2007? 23?
Sounds right.
Yeah. She had learned a ton about stuttering and became a much better therapist. So she started introducing me to concepts like, hey, stuttering's okay. You just need to be able to communicate. Like that's the metric of success is not how little you stutter, but if you can get your point across.
And how you feel about it.
And stuttering is not bad. It's just not. It's not a bad thing. Don't think it's bad. It's not. So then I was like, well, wait a second. No, stuttering's horrible. Like it's the last thing I ever want to do. But again, the easiest way not to stutter is just not to talk. So once you start framing it a little bit differently, things change a lot. And then I also started doing a lot of voluntary stuttering, which is stuttering on purpose, which was like very, very difficult, but life-changing, where I would, you get in a situation, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to stutter. This is crazy. Like, and you're like, wait, I'm just going to do it on purpose. And it just like, it's not like a cure, but it definitely, I would practice getting into really long blocks and really struggled stutters that I was terrified of. I would do them on purpose. And then
desensitize that feeling.
Yes, desensitization. Yeah. Which it's a process. Like it's crazy. But anyway, so I really, really got I started learning new things. And then she suggested I go to an intensive therapy program in New York because I was so into it. And I was just like on fire. It's like, I just like grabbed onto something that actually was positive in my life and just ran with it. And just I was telling everyone I stutter and like just waving the flag of stuttering. And so I went to this 3-week intensive program in New York from the American Institute for Stuttering, and they're still there and they do amazing work. And I met other people who stutter for like the first time. I just assumed they would be weird for some reason, maybe because I'm weird. But I met all these amazing people who stutter, and that was like, I just felt like I was high for like 3 weeks, basically. Well, no, I mean, it was really hard too, and we did a lot of challenging stuff, especially related to desensitization. But
just the connection and the validation, yeah.
So after that, I was like, I am going to be a speech therapist, 100%. Like, how do I do this? And it was, you need a master's degree, but it's not all that unusual for people that are in master's programs for speech language pathology to have an unrelated undergraduate degree
Sure.
However, it is very unusual for that undergraduate degree to be electrical engineering.
Yes, that is very
So,
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, uh,
So you had a lot
so
of prereqs to make it,
yeah, a lot of
probably.
prereqs. But then at this time, I was going through this crazy time of self exploration, and I was like, well, I need to get a job. Um, so where do I want to work? And it's like the reason I was so interested in electrical engineering in the first place was, and I had some skills as an engineer, even though I wasn't a
Hmm.
very good student. Um, and so I just started hitting up ZVEX
Mm,
because I had a friend that had worked there in the past, and eventually got an interview with Zachary Vex, and
mm,
he offered me a part-time job there. And over the next year, I worked part-time and then went to school full-time.
mm,
And then Zach always wanted me to work more hours. And I just realized that, and I loved it. I thought it was so
mm.
fun. I thought it was so great. And at some point, I was like, well, why don't I just work at ZVEX full-time and then just go to grad school part-time? And so then that's what I did.
Mm.
And it took me up until 2013 to graduate with my master's degree. And I still kind of thought at that time that I would work as a speech therapist and just kind of focus on stuttering, and then also maybe start a pedal company and then kind of help Zach out still too. I
Yeah.
thought I could do all that. And I did do it a little bit, but then what I realized was the days that I was working as a speech therapist were my least favorite days. Not because
Mm,
I dislike helping people, but I've found that I'm very introverted, and
mm,
to be in a profession where you're face to face with someone, like eight different people all day for
hmm.
45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, was insanely exhausting for me.
Sure.
And I just didn't like it.
Sure.
So and then I realized that my favorite days by far was when I was working on Chase Bliss designs. And then it
Mm,
just became very clear to me with everything that I just needed to follow my bliss and
mm.
make pedals.
Wow. What a great story. I think it was cool hearing it from that angle of like all these things were going on. I was squeezing on to life like so tightly and
Hmm.
dealing with all this grief. And I know it seems like it did not happen immediately, but as you let go,
Yep.
it all like multiple avenues started just totally opening up. And then, like you've talked about before, honoring your brother and his legacy through your work and just finding all this meaning through all this coming together. And really, it sounds like the whole speech therapy journey, anyways, was really you reclaiming your identity from
Yeah.
growing up.
And it's funny because I remember telling my speech therapist about, I was wanting to do the master's program. And she said, I'll never forget it. She's like, there is no doubt in my mind that you will never regret this decision to pursue this,
Mm,
because just like what you said, and as stuttering became, as I worked more and more on my stuttering, and as it just, stuttering is so complicated, like you can work on it and it doesn't do anything. It's like
yeah.
it. And then some days, like for some reason on this podcast right now, I'm not stuttering very often. Don't really know why, not gonna lie. And and But as stuttering became less of a barrier for communication for me
Mm,
in general, I became less interested in it,
mm,
you know?
yeah. Yeah. And you had already had all these experiences that you had kind of gone through of like, connecting with people and normalizing everything and desensitizing to the actual stuttering itself. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. I did this electrical engineering thing. I forgot I loved making
Yeah.
audio gear. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did. I really forgot. Or maybe I just thought I just kind of wrote it all off. But then once I started doing stuff every day that I loved, it's like, man, this is fun. This stuff's so
Mm.
interesting. Just want to keep doing it.
Well, I just want to flash back to two quick things real quick. Uh, First, So you were playing college football?
Yeah, Division three.
Okay.
So it's for love of the game.
What was
It's
your
where there are no
position?
scholarships. I was a wide receiver.
Uh, Dude, as you said that, I was like, you have such a good like Texas quarterback name, like Joe Corti.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah,
tried to
that.
make when I was younger. They because I kind of I just can't throw very well,
Mhm.
So they'd be like, "Oh, you look like you should be play quarterback," and of course I was like, "No, I stutter. I can't call the plays in the huddle." So I
Interesting.
was always
Yeah.
pretty much not interested in that. But luckily for me, I don't have a very good throwing
They didn't
arm.
force you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they
like
didn't
once they
force you.
saw me throw, they're like, "Yeah, maybe this isn't
Catch.
the
How about you
position for
catch the
you."
ball, buddy?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I did also want to hit on, just out of curiosity, you mentioned, you're sitting in your dorm room and you had that realization. I was wondering what were some of the companies and some of the pedals at that time that were inspiring you to even like have that realization.
See, I wasn't even into pedals at that time. I would get like a compressor from like Presonus or
Mm,
Joe Meek or I didn't know what they were at the time, but I guess they're synthesizers, but like I would get a sound module that I could hook up a keyboard to and make, like
yeah. So just
ambient
different
sounds.
random gear.
And then I
Yeah.
was I was very into plugins. I didn't have any money, so I was like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would I would get a bunch of, steal a bunch of plugins and then mess with the effects in, my DAW. And
Very
that
cool.
was but I was interested in hardware for sure. Like one of the companies I wrote to was PreSonus. And
Very
I could
cool.
probably still find the email and say like what kind of people make these things?
Very cool.
Electrical
Do you like
engineers.
Studio One? Do you use Studio One?
I see. This is another thing we were touching on earlier. I've been out of the game,
Mm,
but I'm building a studio, not like a real studio, but like I have a room in my house that's going to be my little recording room, which I haven't
Studio
had
Cave.
for probably like
At least 6 years, I'm guessing.
yeah,
With your
probably
6-year-old.
12 years.
Oh wow.
And so I don't know what to use. Do you have any suggestions for me? I was thinking about maybe making this like a YouTube series because I'm always thinking about like trying to make content, but then
People would
I
be
don't want to.
obsessed
I
with
also
this.
don't want to reveal how big of an idiot I am. So, but I also kind of do want to reveal about how big of an idiot I am.
People would be obsessed with this. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm all behind this idea. This sounds great.
it's like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's work on this stuff together.
Yeah. Just have your like company friends like make fun of you and help you pick things.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
maybe I should. Maybe I
Well,
should do that.
um, yeah, I recently, so I, it's kind of been like a reclaiming thing for me as growing up. I, found out about music therapy. I dove like deep in the rabbit hole. And part of the big thing, and it's part of the thing I now educate a lot of younger music therapists is the myth that they told us, like, you're a music therapist, your job is not to perform. Like, you're a
Mhm.
therapist, like, really trying to empower the person. It comes from a good place of wanting to say, like, hey, your role is not being like entertainment,
Mm.
um, which on one hand is good. But what I realized as I, started working in several hospitals and having to have, even like you said, having meetings with facility managers and CEOs and these people that like work at these places, and I'm trying to convince them to have music therapy. Um,
It's gonna be a funny role.
yeah, and you're always like, the music man. I'm like Santa jingling down the hallway and stuff like that. And but what I realized is like a lot of every single day, like you were saying, I'm pretty extroverted, so I enjoy it. But a lot of my day is that performance, even if it's
Mm.
not musically performing, which I do enjoy and perform a lot. There's still a lot of, just like you said, performing and interacting, and um,
That's why
for
you're a good
me,
therapist because you
I
that
enjoy
that
it.
doesn't
Yeah, I
totally
enjoy.
zap you. Yeah.
Well, and it's a thing. I think they tell all these people like, oh, you don't have to perform, and then they get into the job, and we wonder why the like burnout rate is bad. It's like
Hmm.
because they get into the job, and maybe they're not. as talented as they would like to be musically, and then all day, like you said, they feel that it's an identity crisis. So for
Yeah, and
me,
yeah, I get
go
it
ahead.
because then too, you're sometimes people try to pigeonhole. Well, how can I make music part of my job? If you don't like being a therapist, you're not going to like being a music therapist.
100%. Yeah. And I think I told that to, yeah, Blake asked me like, who should like, who should be a therapist? It's like, well, you, you should like people.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's a pretty
Problem number one. Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, if you, I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm sure people make it work, but if you don't like people, that might be hard. I know plenty of introverted therapists that do
Yeah.
great. And like you said, I think it even would have been possible. You could have definitely done it and been successful. But when you knew that there was this other
Yeah.
thing,
I
it
would have
was
just
like,
been kind of stressed and unhappy. And,
mhm.
I think when I'm in my mode, I can be pretty good. And I do help out at stuttering camps for kids, a few different ones.
Sweet.
So if that'll be like a week or two long. And
That's
I can
great.
be like, okay, I'm just going to like pretend to be someone else for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks
Yeah. Put on the
and we're
mask for
going
a
to
little
get through
bit.
this. I mean, that's sort of
Yeah.
true and sort of not, but yeah.
That's the introverted life. So I'm told. My
Yeah.
wife is very introverted. So
Okay.
we are yin and yang for that. So I see her like, and I need to not talk to any of you all for like an hour tonight. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. You go take a bath. I'm going to like call my friends or something.
Hmm.
Yeah. But no, what I was saying is for me, um, now working at the university, I got to take a couple of audio engineering and sound design classes, and that's lit the bug of
Mm,
now I'm learning about electronics and circuits. And so I agree. It's like, it's just so fun to like you were saying, uh, keep the mind active and, um, find new ways. I think that's a fascinating thing about the field that we are in. There's so many things to do and be good
hmm.
at. And
Hmm.
you don't have to be good at all of them, right? Like you can just
Hmm.
have fun.
Hmm.
So I think your project studio sounds awesome.
I've never, I kind of feel like this conversation is making me think like I should just do it. I mean, because I think that's why I've been, um, why I have had some success with just being able to connect with people is that I am, and my wife would say, too honest sometimes, um,
Sounds
but
like a good
I think
wife.
it's good to be like, I don't know, it's good to be vulnerable and be like, yeah, I own this guitar pedal company, but I don't know shit about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So help me and let's figure it out together and let's have some fun along the way
Yeah.
because I'm trying to think of that thing like, the journey is the adventure, right?
Totally. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so cheesy, but it's true. It really
Hmm.
is. But that actually segues. One of my buddies had a great question for you. So to summarize, I don't need. Oh, we already said that you have a pedal company. So you design mostly effects pedals,
Yep.
and I do have a question for you because you've had a crazy year where you've had, on one hand, wild success of being able to sell all these runs, and then backlash that you've received from, for some reason, being successful and selling out the things that
Hmm.
you made. Um, my buddy asked me, he's like, I don't know how to word this best, but for being a small business that I think most people don't realize, even most of these pedal companies on a scale of what's a large business are
Oh
all very
yeah.
small
Even the
businesses,
biggest ones. It's just
are still.
it's a small industry. Yeah.
So what what does that feel like? You said you already mentioned having a thin skin, and but like you have these huge demands and you have these wildly interesting and innovative products that people are excited about, and then you've got these crazy demands, and there's how many of you all total?
Well, geez, we've gone from like 5 to 13 now at Chase Bliss. We have
That's
13
wild.
employees.
Congrats on that
Yeah.
too.
Thank you. So, and that's just from, I mean, yeah, 1 year ago today, I just hired Charlie, our engineer. Um, and I think including me, we had 5 people 1 year ago today. Yeah. And now we have like 13, maybe 14. I'm not even sure. I haven't
which
counted
is
for a
still
while.
small. But when you
Yeah.
think 13 or 14,
Yeah.
that's nuts. That's
Mm-hmm.
over 100%, right? Like that's
Yeah.
wild.
It is.
So what is the kind of management of, um, I guess what these, people's expectations are? What is that like on your hand when you're thinking about like developing products and, looking ahead? What is your current kind of relationship with like you said, still just chasing your bliss
Mm-hmm.
and doing your all's thing, but also trying to manage like, okay, but we are a company and there's 13 people's lives and families at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that like process look like for you?
I think I've really grown into it. When I first started, and I would read, I started Chase Bliss. I found joy in the design work, and I was
Mm-hmm.
very protective over it. And as things have grown, and I've gotten really into collaborating,
Hmm.
and I've found that I really enjoy that. And I don't mind uh, taking a step back from that stuff. In fact, I kind of like it in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if that answered your question.
I didn't know what my question was totally
Okay.
getting at, so it sounds great to me. Um, I also was kind of wondering too, like with all the things that have been going on, you all as a Minneapolis company, you've tried to do a lot of things to um, respond to the different things that going on tonight. The night we're talking, news about the trial came out.
Yep.
So what kind of bigger picture has this last year between, there's a pandemic, there's Minneapolis as a community has been rocked. What has it meant? Because you've had this crazy growth. So what has that all
Yeah.
meant for you all through this?
Well, a few years ago, maybe it wasn't a few years ago, but I did kind of, I was like, well, what do I want to be known for?
Hmm.
And, I think that I am really proud of the effects we've designed and come out with, but I'm much more interested in having a longtime employee, say at my funeral or something, like he was a really good guy and
Hmm.
he treated us right and respected us. And like, I would rather be known for that.
Hmm.
And so I think that kind of, as I've, you know, made those kind of connected the dots on that stuff. And I have been really fortunate with the business, and I want to figure out how I can do more than just make some pedals.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, that's good. And I imagine, like you said, with all these new faces kind of staring back at you, um, I can only imagine that that would be at the forefront of your mind. And I think it's
Hmm.
cool hearing how at the beginning you were talking about with having Hillary come in and just seeing everybody connect and it being a healthy space. I think there are so many workspaces that are just not conducive to mental health, conducive to family life, conducive to, all the things that someone can feel fulfilled in. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
just think
most
that's
of, most of the
special.
people that work at Chase Bliss have had really bad jobs.
Mm,
And so even though, they come to work every day and like not everyone is doing the most exciting thing in the world all the time,
hmm
I think that there's a lot of intangible things about working for Chase Bliss that I think make it a really great place to work. And I think that's one of them is it is um, very open, and I want to know if people are unhappy, I want to know about it, and I want to try to make them happy if
mm,
possible. And there's been times too where like we actually recently had a guy. He's a great guy, but like he just didn't like soldering all day, and that's
yeah,
what we
yeah.
really needed someone to do. So, and he loved the company and he loved the employees and he liked me, but we just kind of had to be like, okay, this actually, no matter how much you want to work here, you just don't
this isn't for you,
Yeah.
And
That's hard.
we have a lot of, we've had, so a lot of the people we've hired have live sound experience, and they've been out of work. So in that particular instance, I think he was just ready to go back to live sound whenever that, which hopefully will be soon. That's going to be like a job again,
The last thing, it seems like, yeah. But allegedly, some places are starting to have shows, and I'm seeing people that I follow start to post tour dates and things like that.
It's exciting.
So that is very exciting. I just talked with Daniel Donato the other day, and
cool.
He's got some dates, and he told me, he's like, we're shooting for Kentucky soon. I was so mad I didn't go. He was right near us last February.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, I'll catch him, because he was kind of far. He was in Cincinnati, far enough. And I was like, nah. It was like a Thursday or something.
I think I'm going to try. Yeah. But it's like, that was a whole lifetime ago, back when it was like, well, I'll just catch him next tour.
30 years ago.
Yeah. So I think we all have a different appreciation for live music at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And I agree with you. I see those people more as also people living lives with careers now too. It's like, gosh, even just to respect the things that they do, I feel like I need to go out there more. Yeah. Golly. Well, I have a couple of nerdy questions from my friends too. One of my buddies is an audio engineer, does some studio work and things like that. And he said, everything you all do is awesome. And it's already high level, really. Yeah. Many of your things are already studio quality gear. So he's like, when are we getting rack mount things or 500 series or things like that? Is that on the horizon ever?
I mean, my impression with that stuff is that, I know we kind of touched on the guitar pedal market being relatively small, and the people that I've talked to about, I feel like such a dick saying this, but have done 500 unit stuff. The numbers, as far as like the sales, are just, it's like nobody's buying this stuff.
I mean, it's easy to see some of those, your kind of main colleagues, I've seen one or two, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen a couple of 500 series things, and then they don't do anymore. And I think I think it's hard. And I think
it's cool. And I think for me, sorry, I'm totally interrupted you there.
Go ahead. No, you're the one that's here.
The people that have done 500 series, it's because they really love 500 series stuff themselves. So they wanted to make it. And since I've never really gotten into 500 series stuff, and maybe I will, actually, I probably will. Now that I got some stuff here.
Get you a lunchbox.
Yeah. I literally have one, and I have some, I have some gear, so maybe I'll get that. I'll set it up in my studio, and I'll be like, oh, this is so great. And then I'll want to do something, but it won't be to make profit.
It'll be to make the things you want to make.
Yeah. Which is like, I don't know, like it's weird to have to care about that stuff now, and I, like when I started, it was like, well, whatever. I don't really care. I mean, I want people to buy this, but also if they don't, that's fine. But now it's like, well, I have 13 employees.
The margins are very different.
Like I have to like figure out how to like make the company successful,
Yeah, for sure. And I have another buddy, because of just the whole mission, the analog brain. No, sorry.
Yeah. Digital brain, analog heart.
Digital brain, analog heart. He's wondering, where do you see, you've already talked about collaborations, but where do you see the analog pedal market going in the near future?
In the near future, I think that, I think that there's still lots and lots of interest and demand for analog products. I think I got to a point where I was like, oh, I shouldn't pigeonhole myself here, because it's going to be really limiting. And so for a while, it was digital brain, analog heart, signal path, 100% analog, no exceptions. And at some point I just kind of realized that I was really leaving off a lot of, to use like an art analogy. You have this canvas and, you're just not going to use a bunch of colors because you have some rule you made up about things only being analog. I was like, I don't want to do that. So let's make digital stuff too. And yeah, I mean, I think that, in general, players still aren't really interested in, dirt pedals like fuzzes, overdrives, distortions, that to be digital signal processing. There's some exceptions and that will probably change. And the DSP stuff in that genre of effects will probably get more popular, but analog's so fun and there's so much stuff about it that's just interesting. Like even just sending a super hot signal into something that's digital, it's going to have some headroom limitation and it's going to sound terrible when it clips. Whereas like analog, man, sometimes it's just, you can just stack things and have crazy stuff happen. And it's just, it's different. I
totally.
think that's always going to be, well, at least in the next 20 years, I think that, certainly the next 5 years, that I think people are still interested in analog stuff. I certainly am.
I would say so. Yeah.
But I'm also interested in digital stuff.
I think, that goes.
I'm interested in all the things.
Your all's heart. So somebody, let's say some artist, I'm trying to think of this crazy hypothetical situation. I don't know how it would happen, but let's say some artist comes to you and they're ready to start exploring with guitar pedals. In my mind, I'm thinking Dylan goes electric and he's asking for the first Chase Bliss pedal he should use. Where do you start people? Because you all have just all this wide range of stuff. So what do you consider as your all's like gateway drug to?
I don't know if we really have one. I mean, this definitely come up before, and I ask my employees, and they say, "Well, Dark World's like the layout and the routing, is kind of similar to Brothers. And you can kind of see it as two separate effects pedals that can interact with each other in interesting ways, and so people can kind of wrap their head around that." I found relatively easily. So that's one that we kind of go for. But I also just love sending a mood to literally anyone, because I think that any musician can appreciate that pedal for what it is and make use of it, pretty much regardless of what kind of music they play, or at least bring them some joy in their life and spark some creativity. It might not make it onto a track necessarily,
sure,
but it could inspire a song and not even be in the final recording, because it helps unlock some idea for somebody. But so it's not really a starter pedal because it's weird, but
no, but I think you synthesized something that I think is great about and what makes you all different in a lot of ways. And it's being interested, and I think it goes back to that ethos again of Chase Bliss, right? It's that ethos of not being really concerned about like, oh, it's a drive pedal, oh, it's this, oh, it's like, oh, this is a tool to make you try things and be creative. And I just think that's why it seems like from my side of the table, it looks like everything is so like such a home run, because there are so many different ways and different flavors that resonate with different people.
And that's the thing. And I think part of our success now is at this point, people kind of trust us. So if we put out something that seems ridiculous, people will be like, well,
just try it.
I know that Joel and his team and his collaborators, like, he wouldn't just put out anything. Like there's some, I should, you know, and I think it's just like any sort of, you know, like a band that gets some notoriety. They might put out a bad record or whatever, but at least people will give it a shot because they trust you as an artist, you know?
Nice.
So I think that there's something to be said about that. And it also lets us kind of be more crazy too, in a way. Not too crazy because we want people to like stuff, but you know, sometimes too crazy.
You know, there's a spirit of like, oh, I wonder if we can challenge them a little bit. Yeah. That's cool.
And I don't really want to challenge people. I just want them to like be happy and be inspired and make music, you know. But I think by nature of the stuff we make, they get challenged kind of like not even really on
That's
purpose.
A byproduct.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that is awesome. Before we start to wrap this thing up, you've already given me a ton of your time. If someone hasn't ever heard of any of your all stuff, where would you like them to find your things? And maybe what's like, I'll post some of my favorites. I love all I could listen to just blooper music all day long. And y'all have even got like your Reddit threads and y'all are crushing it everywhere. But where do you want people to find all your all stuff?
I mean, our website, we actually redesigned it. We relaunched it like, I guess it was like a year ago. So I'm pretty proud of our website now. I think it's a good resource for, you know, to learn about our stuff. We're still working on it and we're trying to get as much resources as possible. But I think that is a good place to explore. And it also, we do have lead times on a lot of items because of just it's really hard to make stuff right now with manufacturing world and, you know, COVID and everything. But
that pesky thing.
Yeah, that old chestnut. But you can at least place an order on things, whereas a lot of our stuff is out of stock and from a lot of our stores. But we're working on fixing that. And hopefully now as more things come online and we're able to be more efficient and streamlined as we come back to the office this next month, hopefully, we'll be able to make stuff quicker.
Great. Well, just as a last kind of summary, you've already kind of talked about this and I feel like I know the ethos, but I always like to end with, why do you think and encourage people to make more music?
It's kind of like the working out thing that I mentioned earlier. It's easy to forget how healing and awesome and special music creation is, but it is remarkable medicine for mind, body, and soul, as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. Well, Joel, I appreciate you. I thank you for all this time. I thank you just for being an open book about a lot of things, even talking a lot about like stuttering and getting into just your whole background and everything. So I want everybody to check everything at the links in the show notes. And for Joel and for Chris, everybody give more grace, share more love, and make more music.
Thanks for having me on the show. This has been great.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, if you enjoyed and want to learn more about the guests, their info is in the show notes, as well as how you can support the show. And the best way is to leave a rating and review and tell a friend. Anything else, if you want to make a donation, buy some merch, follow us on Instagram, get in touch with me. You can all do that through the links in the show notes. But until next time, give more grace, share more love, and make more music.